She wasn't speeding, she wasn't breaking the law, she was simply driving home in her own car, yet blue lights flashed behind her. Within moments, a routine stop turned into a nightmare. A cop looked at her skin before he looked at her ID, and in his eyes, she wasn't a respected woman of the law, she was a criminal. What happened next wasn't just humiliating, it was career-ending. How could one simple accusation unravel so quickly and reveal a truth that can't be ignored? Judge Amelia Carter had built her life on discipline, respect, and an unshakable belief in justice. From early mornings in the courtroom to late nights reviewing cases, she had earned her reputation not just as a sharp legal mind, but as someone who treated every person with fairness. Outside the robe, she was simply a woman who valued peace, driving her own car, running errands, and blending into the rhythm of everyday life. On this particular evening, nothing felt unusual. The sun had dipped low, painting the horizon in fading streaks of orange. Amelia left her office with a quiet sense of relief, eager to get home, kick off her shoes, and enjoy a rare, calm night. She wasn't thinking about laws, or trials, or justice, just the comfort of returning to her own space. But life has a cruel way of testing even those who've devoted themselves to protecting what's right. That night, Amelia's drive home would become something far darker than routine. Her years of service, her badge of honor, her very identity, all of it would be overshadowed in a matter of seconds. Because to one man, dressed in a uniform of authority, she wasn't a judge, she wasn't a protector of justice. To him, she was only what her skin made him see. And as his flashing lights appeared in her rearview mirror, Amelia had no idea that this encounter would not only strip her of dignity in the moment, but set in motion a chain of events that would end a career and leave a lasting scar on everyone who heard the story. The flashing lights grew brighter in her rearview mirror, cutting through the fading evening sky. Judge Amelia Carter's heart sank. She had no reason to be afraid. She hadn't broken a single law, but years of headlines, stories from friends, and her own experiences told her that being innocent didn't always mean being safe. She pulled over, her hands steady on the wheel, reminding herself to stay calm. The officer approached slowly, his flashlight beaming through the glass before he even spoke. He didn't see her as a woman coming home from work. He didn't see her as someone who had spent decades upholding justice. He saw only her skin. "Step out of the vehicle," he barked. Without explanation, Amelia complied, her pulse quickening. The officer circled her car like a predator sizing up its prey. He leaned down, peering at the plates, then smirked. "This car was reported stolen," he said flatly, as if the words were fact, not assumption. For a moment, the world seemed to freeze. Amelia's breath caught in her chest. Stolen. She owned this car, paid for it with her hard-earned salary, maintained every document that proved it was hers. Yet, standing there on the side of the road, none of that seemed to matter. As he demanded her license, his eyes carried a weight she had seen before in the courtroom. The look of someone convinced they had already won. The look of someone who didn't need proof, because prejudice was enough. Amelia handed over her ID with controlled composure, her mind racing with the irony. How many times had she sat on the bench, hearing cases of wrongful stops, discrimination, and profiling, and now it was her standing under the cold glare of authority, accused without reason. The officer barely glanced at her ID before pocketing it. He motioned toward the hood of his cruiser, as if preparing to escalate the situation further. By now, passing cars had slowed, their headlights illuminating Amelia like a spectacle. Strangers stared. Her dignity eroded with every second she stood there, being treated not as a respected judge, but as a suspect. Her voice remained steady, but inside, anger boiled. How could years of dedication, justice, and integrity be reduced to this? To him, she was no judge, no professional, no human deserving of respect. She was simply guilty of existing in the wrong skin behind the wheel of her own car. And as the officer tapped his radio, calling in backup, Amelia knew this wouldn't end with just humiliation. Something was about to shift. The power dynamic would soon crack wide open. The question was, would it be her reputation destroyed or his? The officer's voice grew sharper, his tone laced with authority and contempt. "Hands on the hood," he demanded, his palm hovering dangerously close to his holster. The flashing lights painted Amelia's face in red and blue. every pulse of color tightening the knot in her chest. Cars slowed, phones raised, strangers whispering, but no one stepping in. Her body tensed as she pressed her palms against the cold metal. The irony cut deep. She had sentenced men for crimes of abuse, for overstepping power, for less than what was happening to her now. Yet here she stood, on the side of the road, treated like a thief, her life one wrong move away from becoming another tragic headline. The officer circled her again, muttering accusations under his breath. "You think you're smart? Driving around in a stolen car like nobody's gonna notice." His words weren't about truth. They were about control. Each one felt like a weapon, designed to strip her of dignity, piece by piece. Amelia's heart thundered. For the first time that night, anger began to outweigh fear. She had worked too hard, fought too long, and carried too much respect to be reduced to this moment. Her ID was in his pocket. Her name carried weight, but to him, she was invisible. Another faceless suspect to humiliate. And then it happened. With a steady breath, she turned, her voice firm yet calm. "Check my ID," she said. The officer hesitated, smirk fading as confusion flickered across his face. He pulled it from his pocket and scanned the card, then froze. The badge, the seal, the name, Judge Amelia Carter. His arrogance drained in an instant, replaced by a silent horror that rippled across his expression. The crowd leaned closer, recording every second. In that moment, power shifted. The question lingered like a blade in the air. Would justice be served here on this roadside, or would his uniform shield him from the very consequences he deserved? Silence that followed was deafening. The officer's authority crumbled in the span of a breath, his hand trembling as he held Amelia's ID. Round them, the bystanders who had watched in uneasy silence now whispered in disbelief. Phones stayed raised, recording every flicker of his shame. For Amelia, it wasn't victory she felt, it was exhaustion. She had proven her worth in an instant, not because of her years on the bench, not because of her dedication to justice, but because of a plastic card with her title printed on it. Without it, she knew, she could have been another statistic, another name added to the endless list of victims of racial profiling. The officer's career ended shortly after that night. Investigations followed, the footage spread, and his actions could no longer be hidden behind the shield of his badge. Justice, in that small sense, was served. But the deeper wound, the truth of what she experienced, remained. Amelia carried it with her, not as a scar of weakness, but as a reminder of how fragile dignity can be when prejudice dictates perception. Her story wasn't just about a single traffic stop. It was about a system where skin color can still outweigh truth, authority can silence respect, and where justice is too often delayed until humiliation makes it undeniable. The question lingers, not just for Amelia's sake, but for all of us. How many more stories like hers must unfold before the world finally learns? And when the next flashing lights appear in someone's rearview mirror, will they face safety or suspicion? If you like this story, so please be part of the change. Like, comment, and share your thoughts below. And make sure to subscribe for more stories that shine a light on injustice and resilience.